at the creative days, and we have 6 of them, don't we? 6 creative days in the book of Genesis, the first chapter up into the second chapter. We have 6 creative days. And we think, how long were those days? Was it a day? 24-hour day? Was it a 1,000-year day? 7 is the key to that, I believe. 7 is the perfect number with God. 7 days he chose to finish his creation. In those days, if you would multiply the number 7 by 6, or 6 times 7, 6 creative days times 7, and make that 7 a 7,000-year day, you would have 42,000 years that God was forming all that he formed and all that he shaped in those creative days. Now, God needed that time because in a 24-hour day, in a 1,000-year day, if God had not had a time synopsis, a space of time between time, then the completion of that creation on that day would not have been complete, because God's creation was vast. It was not an instantaneous creation. Now I'll show you as I go into this. The first day, just the first day, from verse 3, verse 2 to the verse 5 in Genesis 1, and the second verse, chapter 1, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. Now notice, he had not even created the waters on the earth when he said that God moved upon the face of the waters. But there's no record of creation of the waters on the earth at that time. The reason it wasn't was because that wasn't where God moved upon the waters. Later, he moves upon the waters on the earth. The face of the deep universe, the earth was a dark ball of metal, minerals, glowing, hot perhaps, as comets often are, and it was spinning through the universe in the deep, and it was dark. There was no light. The only place there was light was where God was, and God was not in that part of this part of the universe, the galaxies. God was not here. That is, his form, his being was not here. This was dark. I'm probing now creation. That's what we'll be doing tonight, is probing creation. And there's a natural lesson and there's a spiritual lesson. And we won't get to cover it because this is a vast subject. But God was not in this part of the universe. God never has dwelt in this part of the universe. Because where God is, there's light. And this was dark. This part of the universe was dark. There was nothing in it. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The heaven and the earth. Now, not the heaven, but the earth. See, the heaven. That was his creation first, where he made light, drove back all the darkness of the universe, and he then existed and does exist in the heaven, not the heavens. That's the universe, that's the galaxies, millions, perhaps billions of miles across, who knows. But God created. Now God, at this present time, was God, God alone. According to Genesis, he had no angelic host around him. He had no son around him. The Son of God was not existing. The angels were not existing. There was a single solitary being, God. God who never was created, who never came into existence. He's eternal. It means he was, is, and will be. Yes. That means he's never been formed, created. Now, this is why that right here and now, I know there's a lot of people that call themselves Christians, they live in churches, they don't believe. Because this staggers them. If you would ask them to accept this on face value, that there is a being called God who has existed but was never created, never formed, never brought to birth, but he is. That's why Hebrews 11:1 said, but he that is not 11:1, but Hebrews 11, but without faith, it may be 3 or 4, verse 5, but without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is. He is. Now, what does that have to do with your salvation? I said I'm going to teach a natural and spiritual lesson. That may be the trouble some people have. And they can't go any further. They're stalemated. The word stalemate means you're not moving. You're right where you are, and that's it. You can't go any further. What you believe, and you can't change, and it won't change, and you're not going to change. You're stalemated. You just can't change. You've got so far, and you're stationary. And I think that's where a lot of people now, and I believe the church, must change on that. And change is not your lips saying, I change. There's a lot of people who say, I change. They don't change. Check them out the next day. Check them out the next week. They're still the same person. Basically the same person. But they said they changed. But they don't change. Check them out. And I change. They don't change. They're stalemated. And that's where spiritually the church is right now. That's why the church is in a struggle. That's why the church is battling. That's why the church is struggling to stay afloat, alive. Is because people can't get with the creation process. They can't understand creation. If you're saved, you're going to let God create in you continually. If I'm saved, I'm going to let him create in me. That's why David said in Psalms 51, create within me. It's not there then, is it? If something has to be created, it's not there.
Yes.
Create within me a clean heart, oh God. That means it isn't there. It has to be created. No human being is born with a clean heart. I don't care how innocent and cherubic the cheeks are of a baby. That baby does not have a clean heart. That baby has a corruptible being, and that corruptible being will die. And it doesn't mean that baby is a sinner by action or by nature. It means that baby was born of a corruptible man, a lineage. Doesn't mean the child will be judged of God as a sinner. God exercises resurrection in infancy. In infancy, before a child becomes accountable, the blanket of resurrection is there to bring that child forth in line. Because that child has not committed evil. It may not have done any good by intelligent reasoning, but it's not committed evil. So God does not judge it as he judges an ungodly man, an ungodly woman. The mercy of God is in infancy. The judgment of God is in maturity. The mercy of God is in infancy. The book of Romans, isn't it, said the child having not been born, having neither done good nor evil. See? Many thoughts, I've got a lot of thoughts running through my mind. But in the creation process, that's where the church is. The church is where the earth was when God began to put creation process in it. Now he created the heaven first so he could have a dominion of light.
Yes. Yes.
What triggered an eternal being where time was not even with him?
Yes.
Time was not even with him. He was totally oblivious to time. What triggered that eternal being to suddenly want creation, to want offspring, to look at something else besides himself? Only the eternal plan of God is what God works by. God does not work by, and if I lose you tonight, you question me. Slip your hand up, because I'm not in Sunday school lesson of John 3:16 right now, Brother Daryl.
Can we back up a little bit?
Yes.
You said you were talking about God before Christ was put there, that the heavens and the earth was created prior to Christ?
Yes, see, God created. God, not the Son.
Right.
Now, I'm going to bring that in the next step where the Son assumes creation, but right now, go ahead with your question, your thought.
Okay, I was having a little bit of trouble working this in with this John 1:1.
Read John 1.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
All right, now, John 1:1 is not Genesis 1:1. There's two beginnings. See, in the beginning, God, not Jesus, God created the heaven and earth. Now, but in John 1, he created the Son. In the beginning was the Word. Now, let me look up a scripture for that, Brother Daryl. So, and you continue to ask me questions if I'm not going to, I don't profess to have the last answer, and I'm not going to steamroller over any one of you that asks a question. I want you to thoroughly understand it. If you don't understand it after we're through teaching, discussing it, we'll come back to it. We'll stay